I'm a 30-year-old woman, and I've spent most of my life trying to untangle myself from my older sister Anna's shadow. Anna, who's 5 years older than me, has always been the golden child, or at least, that's what she wants everyone to believe. For as long as I can remember, she's had a knack for twisting reality to suit her narrative. Now, she's taken it to the next level with a memoir that's filled with lies about our childhood, and I'm done staying quiet about it. Growing up, our household was a mess. Our parents were neglectful at best, and at worst, they were completely absent. They were the kind of parents who'd disappear for days without telling us where they were going. Bills went unpaid, food ran out, and Anna and I were left to fend for ourselves. Anna was 15 and I was just 10 when Child Protective Services finally stepped in. I remember sitting in our living room as a caseworker told us we couldn't stay there anymore. Anna cried and begged them to let us stay together, but the caseworker said she was too young to take care of me. That's how I ended up in temporary foster care for 6 months, while Anna stayed with some relatives. Fast forward a few years, and Anna started rewriting history. She began telling people that she practically raised me on her own. According to her, she was the brave older sister who stepped up when our parents failed us. She claimed she was the one who made sure I went to school, had food to eat, and stayed out of trouble. In reality, Anna spent most of her time hanging out with friends, partying, or blaming me for things I didn't do. I wasn't raised by Anna, I raised myself. I worked hard to build a life for myself. I got through high school, paid my way through college by working 2 jobs, and now I have a stable career. I didn't get here because of Anna, I got here in spite of her. Meanwhile, Anna has always been more concerned with her image. She's the kind of person who needs constant validation and she'll do whatever it takes to get it. That's probably why she decided to write a book. A few weeks ago, Anna announced on social media that she was publishing a memoir called Raising My Sister, A Journey of Love and Sacrifice. She posted a dramatic video of herself holding the manuscript and talking about how much it meant to her to finally share her story with the world. She described it as a heartfelt tribute to our bond as sisters and a testament to her resilience. I watched that video in disbelief. The audacity of it all left me speechless. She wasn't just bending the truth, she was snapping it in half and setting it on fire. Since the announcement, Anna's social media has blown up. Influencers are reposting her videos, people are leaving comments calling her inspiring, and extended family members I haven't heard from in years are reaching out to congratulate her. I even got a call from one of my aunts who said, "Isn't it wonderful what Anna is doing for you? You must be so proud of her." I wanted to scream. At first, I told myself I wouldn't do anything. I figured it wasn't worth the drama, but then I started thinking about the people who would read her book and believe her lies. What about the young woman who picks it up and thinks, "Wow, I wish I had a sister like Anna"? What about the kids who are actually raised by siblings because their parents failed them? Anna's story isn't just false, it's insulting to people who have lived through real struggles. I decided to gather evidence to set the record straight. I dug out my CPS records, which clearly state that Anna wasn't allowed to care for me because she was deemed unfit. I found old photos that show what our house looked like back then, dirty dishes piled up, holes in the walls, and an empty fridge. I even tracked down a few former neighbors and teachers who remembered how things really were. One of them told me Anna always acted like she had it all together, but everyone knew she didn't. A couple of days ago, I tried to talk to Anna about it. I showed her the CPS records and told her she needed to stop lying. She rolled her eyes and said I was being dramatic and jealous of her success. She even had the nerve to say, "This book isn't just about you, it's about me and my journey." That's when I knew she wasn't going to back down. She's built her entire identity around this fake story, and she's not about to let it go, even if it means stepping on me to keep it alive. Her book launches in 2 weeks. It's a big event at a fancy venue, complete with media coverage and a QA session. Anna's treating it like the Oscars. I've decided that's when I'm going to expose the truth. I'm not doing it to hurt her. I'm doing it because I'm tired of living in her shadow. She's had 20 years to tell her version of our story. Now, it's my turn. When I decided to expose Anna's lies, I knew I couldn't go into this unprepared. I started with the CPS records I'd kept all these years. The folder was buried in a box of old papers I hadn't looked through in ages. It contained court documents, letters from social workers, and an official report that stated Anna was never my caregiver. The records were clear. Anna was only 15 when CPS intervened, and she wasn't even considered for guardianship because she wasn't capable of taking care of me. Reading through them again, I realized just how stark the reality of our childhood had been. I contacted a few former neighbors who'd lived next to us back then. One woman, who still lived in the same house, remembered how Anna would leave me alone for hours while she hung out with her friends. Another neighbor recalled calling CPS after seeing us go days without a proper meal. I also reached out to 2 teachers who had been involved in the CPS case. Both of them agreed to provide written statements about the neglect they had witnessed. Piece by piece, I was building a case that would shatter Anna's version of events. Meanwhile, Anna's social media presence was exploding. Every day, she posted updates about her book, photos of her working at a coffee shop with captions like, "All for you, little sister," and clips of her reading emotional excerpts about how she fought to protect me. Her posts were shared thousands of times, and the comments were filled with people calling her a hero. Influencers were tagging her, saying her story brought them to tears. It was surreal to watch strangers celebrate a story I knew was a complete fabrication. The pressure from family didn't help. Aunts and uncles I hadn't spoken to in years were suddenly calling, telling me how proud I must be of Anna. Some even suggested I make a public post supporting her to show how much her book meant to me. It was infuriating, but I kept my focus on gathering evidence. Anna's behavior didn't make it easier. She called me once, claiming I was ungrateful for everything she had done for me. She told me the book was her way of honoring our bond, which only solidified my decision to expose her lies. Not everyone bought into Anna's story. A cousin of ours, who had always been skeptical of Anna's version of events, reached out. She remembered the CPS involvement and offered to help me share the truth. She suggested we use social media to counter Anna's narrative, but I wanted to wait for the book launch. I knew that was when Anna would have the most attention, and it would be the perfect moment to reveal the evidence. The timing had to be just right. As if things weren't bad enough, Anna did an interview on a popular podcast. She cried as she recounted how she had sacrificed her teenage years to raise me. She claimed she'd worked part-time jobs to buy me school supplies and stayed up late to help me with homework. The hosts ate it up, calling her an inspiration. Listening to that interview was the last straw. I decided then and there that I wouldn't wait any longer to prepare. I had to be ready for the launch. I printed out multiple copies of the CPS records, photos of our neglected home, and the statements from neighbors and teachers. I put them all in plain envelopes, ready to hand out to attendees at the event. I also wrote a short speech, something direct and factual in case I got the chance to speak at the launch. A few close friends agreed to attend with me and help distribute the envelopes. They were just as fed up with Anna's lies as I was. Anna, of course, kept stoking the fire. She started posting cryptic messages on social media about family drama, clearly trying to generate buzz for the book. In one post, she hinted that someone in her family was jealous of her success and might try to cause trouble at the launch. Her followers ate it up, leaving comments like, "Don't let the haters get you down," and "You're so brave for sharing your story." The night before the launch, I rehearsed my speech in front of my friends. We talked through different scenarios, including how to handle backlash from the crowd. I wasn't afraid of Anna's reaction. I expected her to lash out, but I needed to be prepared for how the audience might respond. Would they believe me? Would they side with Anna? The tension was almost unbearable, but I kept reminding myself that the truth was on my side. The morning of the event, I dressed carefully. I wanted to look professional and composed, not like someone coming to start a fight. As I walked into the venue, I felt a strange calm. The room was packed with people, and Anna was already on stage, soaking up the attention. She looked radiant, smiling as cameras flashed around her. It was clear she thought this was her moment. What she didn't realize was that it was about to become mine. The venue was even more over the top than I expected. It was a spacious hall with glittering chandeliers, a stage set up with Anna's book cover as the backdrop, and rows of neatly arranged chairs filled with her supporters. There were catering tables with expensive hors d'oeuvres, a photographer snapping pictures of every detail, and a group of influencers live streaming the event. Anna was the star of the show, surrounded by people clamoring to get a selfie with her or have their copy of the book signed. She was in her element. As the event began, the room fell silent. A host took the stage to introduce Anna, gushing about her resilience and the beautiful story she had shared with the world. Then, Anna walked up, looking poised and confident. She launched into an emotional speech about how hard her life had been, claiming she had sacrificed everything to raise me. She described late nights teaching her little sister to read, and how she'd worked odd jobs to make sure I had food to eat. Her voice broke as she talked about how much she loved me, and the audience gave her a standing ovation. From where I stood at the back, I could see people wiping their eyes. During the first break, my friends and I discreetly began distributing the envelopes. It was nerve-wracking, but we worked quickly and quietly, slipping them to as many people as possible. Each envelope contained copies of the CPS records, photos of our childhood home, and statements from neighbors and teachers who had witnessed the neglect we endured. Some attendees opened them right away, their expressions shifting from admiration to confusion. Others tucked them into their bags to read later, but the ripples were already starting. When the QA session began, I made my move. I raised my hand, and the host handed me the microphone. The room quieted as I stood up and introduced myself. "As Anna's sister, I have a question," I said. "Anna, can you explain how you raised me when CPS records show I was placed in foster care for 6 months because you were deemed unfit to care for me?" The crowd murmured, and all eyes turned to Anna. For a split second, her confident facade faltered. Anna smiled tightly and responded, claiming the records were exaggerated and that the authorities hadn't understood their situation. She insisted that she had done her best to take care of me, painting herself as a misunderstood hero. Her deflection might have worked if it weren't for the growing number of people in the audience who were now reading the documents in their envelopes. I didn't let her dodge the truth. I stepped forward and asked to take the microphone. The host hesitated, but the crowd was already buzzing with curiosity. Reluctantly, he handed it to me. Standing in front of everyone, I laid out the facts. I explained how CPS had removed me from our home due to neglect, how Anna was never my caregiver, and how she had rewritten our childhood to make herself look good. I pointed to the documents in the envelopes as proof, encouraging people to read them for themselves. The room erupted. Gasps and whispers filled the air as people flipped through the papers. A reporter in the back stood up and asked Anna if the CPS records were real. Anna's face turned red as she stammered, insisting that the documents were misleading and taken out of context. But the damage was done. People were questioning her story, and the once supportive crowd was now divided. Anna's voice rose as she accused me of ruining her big day. She called me jealous and bitter, claiming I had falsified the records to discredit her. But her anger only made her look defensive, and the reporters in the room began peppering her with questions about the inconsistencies in her story. Her perfect image was crumbling right in front of everyone. As the tension in the room reached its peak, I decided it was time to leave. I had said what I needed to say, and the truth was out there. I handed the microphone back to the host and walked out, my friends following close behind. Outside, I could still hear the chaos inside the venue as Anna tried to regain control of the narrative. By the time I got home, videos of the confrontation were already circulating online. People were sharing clips of my speech, the CPS records, and the audience's reactions. The comments were a mix of shock, support, and disbelief. Some people defended Anna, calling me a liar, but many more were beginning to see through her facade. Anna posted a tearful video later that night, claiming she was the victim of a family betrayal. She said she was heartbroken that I would go to such lengths to tear her down and accused me of trying to destroy her career. But the evidence was too strong to ignore. More and more people were sharing the documents and discussing the discrepancies in her memoir. The tide was turning. Over the next few days, Anna's credibility took a major hit. Her loyal supporters started asking questions, and the positive reviews of her book were replaced with critical ones. Even some of our relatives, who had been so quick to congratulate her, began reaching out to me, apologizing for believing her lies. It was clear that Anna's perfect image was starting to crack, and there was no going back. After the book launch fiasco, the fallout was swift and messy. Our family was completely divided. Some relatives sided with Anna, still clinging to her narrative despite the evidence I'd presented. They claimed the CPS records and other proof were taken out of context or said I should have handled the situation privately. Others, however, reached out to me, apologizing for believing Anna's lies for so long. One of my uncles admitted he had always been suspicious of her stories but didn't want to rock the boat. It felt like the family had split into two camps, and the tension was palpable in every interaction. Meanwhile, Anna's public image took a nosedive. The glowing reviews for her book were quickly replaced by scathing ones, with readers calling her out for fabricating her story. Refund requests flooded the publisher, and several bookstores pulled her book from their shelves. On social media, people were tagging her in posts questioning her integrity, and the hashtags associated with her memoir were now filled with memes mocking her claims. It was clear her heroic older sister image was falling apart. Anna's publisher issued a statement a few days later, distancing themselves from her. They claimed they had no prior knowledge of the inaccuracies in her memoir, and announced they would be halting all future print runs. This was a huge blow for Anna. Without the backing of her publisher, she lost the platform she had worked so hard to build. She tried to spin it, posting on social media that the memoir was inspired by true events rather than a literal account. But by then, no one was buying it, figuratively or literally. Amid the chaos, former teachers and even a retired CPS worker came forward to support me. One of my elementary school teachers shared a detailed post about the neglect she had witnessed when I was in her class. She described how Anna often skipped school to hang out with friends, leaving me to fend for myself. The retired CPS worker confirmed the authenticity of the records I had shared and even provided additional context about the case. Their support added weight to my claims, and public opinion overwhelmingly shifted in my favor. Financially, things weren't looking good for Anna either. With her book sales plummeting and refund requests piling up, she started losing money instead of making it. Rumors began circulating that she was struggling to pay back her advance from the publisher. She also lost several brand partnerships she had secured during her book's initial hype. Influencers who had previously promoted her story quietly deleted their posts, and Anna's name became synonymous with dishonesty. But the media picked up the story, further amplifying the drama. Major outlets ran headlines like "Family Drama Unravels Best-Selling Memoir," and "Truth Behind Viral Author's Claims Sparks Outrage." Journalists analyzed the discrepancies in her book, comparing her claims to the evidence I had presented. Some articles even interviewed people from our old neighborhood who corroborated my version of events. Every new report seemed to dig Anna's hole deeper, and there was no climbing out of it. Anna didn't go down without a fight, though. She threatened to sue me for defamation, claiming I had ruined her career with false accusations. I wasn't worried. I knew the truth was on my side, and I had plenty of evidence to back it up. After consulting with her lawyer, Anna must have realized she didn't have a case because the threats quickly stopped. It was just another failed attempt to salvage what was left of her reputation. As the dust settled, Anna all but disappeared from social media. Her once busy accounts went silent, and she stopped posting altogether. The glossy, curated image she had built over the years was gone, replaced by silence and speculation. People online speculated about her next move, but for now, it seemed like she had retreated from the public eye entirely. On my end, life finally started to feel normal again. With the truth out there and public support on my side, I was able to focus on my career and personal life without the weight of Anna's lies hanging over me. Some relatives tried to mend fences, apologizing for doubting me or pushing me to stay silent. While I accepted their apologies, I kept my distance. I knew better than to let toxic dynamics back into my life. The confrontation at the book launch felt like a turning point. For years, I had let Anna control the narrative about our family, but now I had reclaimed my story. The experience taught me the importance of standing up for myself, even when it's uncomfortable or messy. It also reinforced the value of setting boundaries with people who don't have your best interests at heart. Moving forward, I'm focused on maintaining peace in my life. I've reconnected with the cousin who helped me gather evidence, and we've grown closer through this ordeal. I've also made a conscious effort to surround myself with people who support and uplift me. As for Anna, I don't see a reconciliation happening anytime soon, if ever. She made her choices, and now she has to live with the consequences. In a way, I feel like I've finally closed a chapter of my life that's been open for far too long. The lies, the manipulation, the constant tension, it's all behind me now. I'm ready to move forward, free from Anna's shadow, and focus on building a future that's grounded in truth and authenticity. Not long after Anna went silent on social media, she resurfaced with a tearful video. In it, she accused me of misrepresenting our childhood, calling my actions a smear campaign designed to ruin her life. She talked about how much she had sacrificed for me, repeating the same stories from her book. The video was dramatic, she cried, paused for effect, and ended by pleading with her followers to stand by her truth. It worked, at least partially. Some of her loyal supporters rallied behind her, leaving comments about how family drama should stay private and accusing me of being bitter. But just as many questioned her. Without evidence to back her claims, the video came across as more desperate than genuine. Her next move was a GoFundMe campaign titled "Reclaim My Story." In the description, Anna claimed she needed funds to fight legal battles and restore her reputation. She set an ambitious goal, asking for tens of thousands of dollars. At first, the campaign gained traction, with a few donors contributing. But it didn't take long for people to start asking questions. Some demanded transparency about how the money would be used, while others mocked the campaign outright. Screenshots of the GoFundMe page went viral, with users pointing out the irony of asking for money after profiting off a fabricated memoir. I stayed quiet through all of this. I had already presented my evidence, and there was no need to engage further. Every time Anna tried to spin the narrative, the facts spoke louder than her words. But that didn't stop her from escalating things behind the scenes. She started enlisting distant relatives to contact me, accusing me of tearing the family apart. One cousin messaged me, saying I should have handled things privately to avoid humiliating Anna. Another suggested I reach out to Anna and find a way to fix things. I ignored all of it. The truth was out, and I wasn't about to apologize for exposing her lies. While Anna scrambled to save face, internet sleuths began picking apart her memoir. People online uncovered inconsistencies in her timeline, pointing out events that didn't line up with public records. A particularly damning discovery was a fabricated story about her working 3 jobs to support me, something easily disproven by her school attendance records from that time. Every new inconsistency that surfaced added fuel to the fire, and Anna's reputation continued to unravel. Her publisher dealt the final blow. They released an official statement announcing they were canceling all contracts with Anna. They cited their commitment to truth and integrity, making it clear they no longer wanted to be associated with her. With no royalties coming in and mounting refund requests from readers, Anna's financial situation started to look bleak. Rumors began circulating that she was in debt, struggling to maintain the lifestyle she had flaunted on social media. Her friendships took a hit as well. A few influencers who had supported her during her book launch quietly unfollowed her and deleted their posts promoting the memoir. Even some of her closer friends started distancing themselves, likely out of fear of being associated with her public fallout. Anna's once busy social circle was dwindling, and she was clearly feeling the strain. The drama spilled over into family gatherings. Relatives who had initially defended Anna were now divided. At one family dinner, I heard about a heated argument between 2 cousins, one who believed Anna's narrative and another who supported me. It seemed like every event turned into a debate about who was in the wrong. Some blamed Anna for lying, while others accused me of taking things too far by going public. I kept my distance from the drama, focusing on my own life instead. A small group of Anna's remaining supporters started trolling me online, leaving hateful comments and sending me nasty messages. It was annoying but not surprising. I ignored them, knowing they were clinging to a version of Anna that didn't exist. Meanwhile, new evidence surfaced that strengthened my case. A former CPS worker anonymously confirmed the accuracy of the records I had shared. Their statement was picked up by several media outlets, adding even more credibility to my claims. Investigative journalists began publishing deep dives into the whole situation. Articles with titles like The Fall of a Memoir Star and How a Viral Author Lost Her Credibility detailed Anna's lies and the fallout that followed. They included interviews with people from our childhood, adding context to the neglect we had experienced. The coverage left no doubt about the truth, and Anna's reputation was all but destroyed. While all this was happening, my career took an unexpected but welcome turn. My boss called me into a meeting to discuss a promotion. They acknowledged how I had handled the situation with Anna, saying it showed resilience and integrity. I accepted the promotion, feeling like it was a sign that things were finally turning around for me. Anna has been completely silent online for weeks now. Her GoFundMe campaign failed, barely raising a fraction of its goal before she shut it down. Her supporters have largely moved on, and her name is no longer trending for the wrong reasons. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm no longer living in her shadow. The truth is out, and the world sees her for who she really is. Moving forward, I'm focusing on my career and the relationships that matter. Some family members have tried to repair things with me, apologizing for doubting me or pressuring me to stay quiet. While I've accepted their apologies, I'm keeping firm boundaries. This whole ordeal has shown me the importance of protecting my peace, even if it means cutting ties with toxic people. Anna may have tried to rewrite our history, but now, I'm the one in control of my story. A few weeks after Anna's online silence, I received an email from her. It was short, apologetic in tone, and carefully worded to avoid admitting any real wrongdoing. She asked to meet privately, framing it as an opportunity to mend our relationship. The message was typical Anna, strategic and self-serving. I debated ignoring it, but I knew this could be my chance to hold her accountable. I responded, laying out my conditions. I would only agree to meet if she issued a public apology and admitted to fabricating her memoir. At first, Anna pushed back. She tried to negotiate, claiming a public apology wasn't necessary and that we could resolve things as a family. I held firm, refusing to engage further until she agreed to my terms. It took a few more days of silence before she caved. Whether it was the mounting public pressure or her realization that her reputation couldn't recover without taking responsibility, Anna finally agreed to make a statement. She scheduled a small press conference, and I made it clear I wouldn't be attending. At the event, Anna stood behind a podium, looking nothing like the confident, polished author she had been just weeks earlier. She appeared tired, her usual spark dimmed. Cameras flashed as she began to speak. She admitted that parts of her memoir were exaggerated, and that she had made mistakes in how she portrayed our childhood. She apologized to me, our family, and her readers for the harm caused by her actions. While she stopped short of admitting the memoir was entirely fabricated, the admission was enough to satisfy my terms. The public reaction was mixed. Some people commended Anna for owning up, saying it took courage to apologize so publicly. But most saw it for what it was, damage control. Comments on news articles and social media were harsh, with many pointing out how long it took her to address the situation and questioning her sincerity. The apology did little to repair her image, and in some ways, it only made her look weaker. Following the press conference, I released a brief statement of my own. I expressed relief that the truth was finally out but made it clear that I had no intention of rebuilding a relationship with Anna. I emphasized the importance of honesty and accountability, stating that while I had no ill will toward her, I needed to prioritize my own peace. It was the final word I planned to have on the matter. Some relatives tried to intervene, suggesting family therapy sessions to heal the wounds. I politely declined. My focus was on moving forward, not revisiting the past. I didn't see the point in sitting in a room with people who had ignored the truth for so long, only to demand reconciliation now that it suited them. I wasn't bitter, I was just done. Unable to face the community she had built her image around, Anna quietly relocated to another city. She took on a low-profile job unrelated to her previous ambitions, staying far away from the public eye. Rumors swirled about her struggles, with some saying she had downsized to a small apartment and others claiming she was still trying to pay back the advance from her publisher. Whatever the case, Anna had clearly stepped back from the life she had once flaunted so proudly. Within our family, the dynamic shifted. For years, Anna had dominated every conversation, her narrative dictating how others viewed me and our shared history. Now, there was a noticeable change. People were more cautious, valuing honesty and transparency in a way they hadn't before. That said, some relationships remained strained. A few relatives still resented how public the situation had become, but I didn't lose sleep over their opinions. One positive outcome of this ordeal was the bond I formed with my cousin. The one who had supported me from the beginning became a true ally, and we grew closer than ever. She had always been skeptical of Anna's stories, and helping me expose the truth solidified our relationship. We started spending more time together, supporting each other through the family drama and beyond. It was a reminder that even in the messiest situations, there are people who will stand by you. Anna quietly withdrew all legal threats after the press conference. I suspect her lawyer advised her against pursuing anything further, given how much evidence I had on my side. With that, the chapter on legal battles closed for good. To my surprise, a production company reached out, expressing interest in turning my story into a documentary. They wanted to focus on the family dynamics, the memoir scandal, and the fallout. While the idea was intriguing, I ultimately declined. I had spent enough time living in the shadow of this drama. My goal was to move forward, not relive it for the sake of entertainment. I thanked them for the offer but made it clear that my story was no longer up for public consumption. Instead, I channeled my energy into building the life I had worked so hard for. I bought a small house in a quiet neighborhood, a space that felt like my own fresh start. It wasn't just a new home, it was a symbol of my independence and the freedom I had finally gained from Anna's manipulation. Looking back, I don't regret any of it. Standing up for the truth wasn't easy, but it was necessary. For too long, Anna controlled the narrative, rewriting our history to suit her needs. Taking back my story empowered me in ways I never expected. It taught me the value of boundaries, the importance of integrity, and the strength of speaking out even when it's uncomfortable. For the first time in years, I feel free to live my life on my own terms, without the weight of Anna's lies holding me back.